Hi guys! I thought it was time to do a flip through of my cousin since it's been quite a while since I last showed it to you. So as most of you know, my cousin is my work planner and I've been keeping it in this purple vegan leather cover since December. I absolutely love this. This is like my unicorn Hobonichi cover. I got it from the Etsy shop LovedbyGaby. If you know my channel, you've heard me mention LovedbyGaby many times. It's a great shop. If you're new though, I'll link it down below. She's got these in purple and aqua and they're fantastic. They're identical to Hobonichi covers, but they're not the actual Hobonichi brand. And I just wanted to mention it's now September and I've been using this full time since last December. I've used it every day, you know, multiple times a day. I throw this in and out of my bag. I'm not at all careful with it and it looks exactly like it did when I bought it. It's completely brand new, so it's really hard wearing and it's beautiful and I absolutely love it. I have a pen and a pencil in the pen loops. The pen is a Pilot Decimo. I've been using this for a couple of months now and it's definitely one of my all-time favorite fountain pens. I'm going to do a video soon showing you all of my different fountain pens that I use with my various planners. I really like this one because it's retractable, which is good because I use this planner all the time for work notes. So I often have it next to me and I'll write down some notes and then put it down, pick it up again, and it's nice just to be able to do this rather than taking the top on and off. I worked out this hack for the pen loops. I think I mentioned this in a previous video, but I'll just tell you quickly again in case you haven't seen that and it might be of help to somebody. The Hobonichi pen loops are gigantic and sometimes this isn't a problem because you can hook the pen clip onto the pen loop, and I haven't always found it to be an issue with my various Hobonichi covers that I've had, but for some reason with this one, I think it's because this is faux leather and so it's a little bit thicker than, for example, the nylon covers of the Hobonichi colors range, the basic range. And I just found it a pain putting it on, like putting the clip on the pen loop and then taking it off multiple times a day. I would kind of like have to pull it taut and then put the pen clip on or else it wouldn't go on, and then sometimes it was hard to take off, and anyway it just got to be annoying. So I put this metal pen clip or pen loop, which I bought from Ryman's, an office supply store in the UK, but I'm pretty sure I've seen exactly the same ones at Muji. So that just clips onto here and then it's like a pen loop within a pen loop, and then you can just slide this in and the pen loop will grip it, and then you don't have to worry about hooking it on the gigantic Hobonichi pen loop. With this one, I don't use this pencil very often. I only have it in here in case I have to go to the British Library, which doesn't allow you to use pens. And you know, I've gone there before and not had a pencil, and that's been kind of annoying. So I just keep this here really on the off chance, but that's the only reason that I need it. So I keep it hooked like this and it doesn't bother me. But if I was using this every day, it definitely would bother me and I would get another one of these metal pen loops. So that's the story with the pen loops. When you open it, I think this is pretty much the same as I've had it for quite a while now. I'm really happy with this setup. It's quite minimalist, but it has everything that I need. So I have some business cards in here. I finally got my own business cards after, well, never having had them before. So that was kind of an exciting moment. I don't use them very often, but if I go to a conference, then sometimes people ask for them, and now I can give them one instead of writing my email address down on a sticky note, which is what I always used to do. Then I have some library cards, and that's obviously, as I said, because this is my work planner and I'm a lecturer, so all of the university related stuff is in here, as opposed to my, you know, like credit and debit cards and stuff like that, which I keep in my personal planner / wallet, and I'll do an update of that soon as well. So then I just keep the Hobonichi stencil in here, the green one. I don't actually use this in this planner. I should really take it out, but I just keep it kind of just in case, and also because it has a little ruler on the side and it's very slim, so I think I might as well have it in here in case I ever need it, rather than storing it in a box of planner supplies and then not having it the one time that I would need it. This is a set of page flags which I use sometimes for work to mark, if I'm working on a particular text, I use it to mark the page. And then perfectly suited to this little pocket here are these arrows. I got these from Paper Chase, which is another it's like a stationery shop in the UK. I think you have it in America as well. And I just use these to mark particularly important things that I don't want to forget, but they're reusable, so this will last me a really, really long time. Then here I have an A6 Hobonichi notebook, and I use this to store information that I want to transfer from year to year, like passwords and all of that kind of stuff. This is a picture of Panda. And then here, I've had this for ages as well, so I'm sure you've already seen this. This is a postcard that my friend gave me, and I feel like it just sums up my work life. And then this came from a Happy Scrappy kit. I can't remember if I had this on here the last time I did a flip through. It says she believes she could, so she did. And I really wanted to put this in here because often I feel like with all of the different elements of my job, particularly the research, it can get really overwhelming and I can just, you know, feel like I can't do it. So I put that there in the hopes that it would kind of encourage or motivate. I haven't been doing anything with the yearly calendar. I do sometimes check this if I have to do something like, you know, plan for an event that's quite far in advance and I just want a quick at a glance view that will give me all of the days and all of the months. And I have actually even used the 2015 spread. I think it was for something when I had to apply for something and I had to note down things that I'd done previously. I had to check this, but I don't mark it off or put stickers on it or anything. I've mentioned before, I keep this planner really minimalist. I don't use stickers or color code or anything like that. So I'm just kind of trying to keep it very like clean and uncluttered, and I really like that look. Then this is my vertical monthly overview, and I like this because I can see at a glance which events are happening on which days. So if I want to see just very quickly what does September look like, here I can see these are days when I'm going to be away or when the whole day is taken up with something, and that's so that I can tell like how much time roughly I'll have to work on research projects, because my job is a mix of teaching, research and admin, and then there are various other things as well that kind of get in the way. So I like to see these days are blocked off, I'm not going to be able to get anything done. And then at the bottom I put the research projects that I want to be working on that month. And so I have to fit them in around all of the fixed events. I used to put the fixed events up at the top. If there was something like a conference or a summer school or an event that was going to kind of take multiple days, I would put it up at the top just to, you know, so that I could see that at a glance. I haven't really done that now because I sort of keep the days where I can be at home blank, and so I can see at a glance anyway when there are events. Like this was a summer school and I could see straight away, so I didn't bother putting it up at the top as well. But I might do that again if it seems like it would be useful. And that's the same for the rest of the year. This is the spring cousin, by the way, so it starts in April, which I like because, as I think I've mentioned before, it's kind of like a reverse academic year for me, because obviously my academic year starts at the end of September, but this one, because it finishes in April, which is when our teaching has finished, sort of like our teaching finishes at the end of March, which is when this finishes, so it starts in what's the beginning of my summer term, and then it goes all the way until the end of the next spring term, so it kind of covers me for the whole year rather than having to switch halfway through the academic year in January. So I like that. For my monthly spread, I'm using this the same way that I was using it before. I just use it primarily to mark off appointments. So you can see this was when I was away. I went to Penn State to work with a colleague. If I'm away or if I have a particular time-based event, and that's so that if I need to make an appointment, I can just flip to the month and see at a glance, you know, all of my appointments. It's kind of different from this one because I don't put individual appointments on here generally. I only note down events that are going to last for like the whole day or multiple days. So this is kind of like more of a bigger scale thing, but I wouldn't use this to make appointments because I might have an event that's only like an hour long or something, and I don't bother putting that kind of thing on here. So I would go to here and then see, am I free that day? So like, for example, Friday, I didn't have anything. So if I needed to make an appointment, I could. Whereas on one of these days, I've got all of this stuff going on. And then the other thing I use it for is to work out timetables for research projects. So I've mentioned this before as well. I like to break down my research projects into very small chunks so that they feel less intimidating. And so I mark off, like at the moment I'm editing a book which I'm about to finish and have to submit like kind of by early October. So I've marked off how many pages I have to edit per day. And that just kind of helps me to see an overview of the whole thing. It's a lot easier than looking at the weekly spread, which doesn't sort of give you as much of a bird's eye view. And on the side here, I use this to note down events that I have to do or that I'm expecting to happen sometime during the month, but I'm not sure when, just so that they don't get lost. So this is an easy place that I can come back and reference. So like, for example, I have to talk to a colleague about giving some talks at some schools. So book conference rooms, I've already done that. And I had this in here for months just because I knew that I had to do it in September, but I didn't know when exactly in September I'd have time. So sometimes these events just stay on here and I cross them off directly from here. Sometimes I transfer them over to my weekly spread if I know at some point if I decide when exactly I want to do them. So it just depends on the thing, whether it's something that I can just do straight away. Like this booking conference rooms, it's been on here for ages. And then finally yesterday I was like, okay, I'm just going to do that now. So it didn't ever make it onto the weekly spread. But this is just a place that I know to check, like kind of periodically through the months so that I can see what I have to remember to do. Not big projects. The big projects go on here. This is more like particular tasks or events that I'm not sure when exactly I'm going to be able to fit them in. So as you can see now that the teaching term is starting at the end of the month, and so I've started marking in when I'm teaching. So I've just, I got those in there. I've only done it for October, and I think I started doing it for November. So I'll just do these like kind of as and when. A lot of times I do this kind of planning when I'm on the underground because there's not much else that you can do there besides read. So I like to take advantage of that time to plan. So I'll just put in all of those recurring tasks like for the rest of the year so that I know exactly what my teaching schedule is. And then we move on to the weeklies. So I think we last saw this probably sometime in July when I was doing One Book July. So if we start in the last week of July, see this is quite a busy week. This is really like the heart of the planner for me. I use the weekly spread for scheduling and then also for my to-dos. This is all work related though. All of my non-work related stuff is my personal planner. And I really like that division, both because I feel like it gives me enough space. So as you can see, this was quite a busy week, as in like, there's stuff going on all around here, but I still feel like there is enough room for everything. If I had my personal to-dos in here as well, I think I would struggle to fit it all in. And also because it's just, I don't know, I just like to have a division. I have I've mentioned this before, I have a work email and personal email accounts, and I like to keep them separate, and it's the same kind of philosophy with the planner. So on the left, I put in, on the top left, just below this calendar, which I never use, I always forget that it's there in fact, I put in a little box the main research project that I want to be working on that week, or not project, in cases like, I'm currently working on like quite a big project, this book that I mentioned, which I have to finish. So I've kind of divided it into, these smaller chunks, and I put at the top of the week what I'm expecting to be doing that week, just so that I can see at a glance on the weekly spread. And I put that in a little box. Then here, I put in things that I have to get done sometime during the week, but I'm not sure exactly when. So sometimes I copy them over from this monthly spread. If I see something on here and I think this is a good week to do that, I think I could imagine fitting that in, I'll put it here if I'm not sure which day I want to do it, and then I just cross them off as I go along. Sometimes I write in notes, like this was a book that I saw suggested somewhere, and I wrote it down because I thought I want to look up that book at some point, but it's not really a to-do, as in if I don't do it, it doesn't really matter. And by the end of the week, by Sunday, I check through this list and see if I have either done everything or transferred it over to the next week to make sure that I don't lose track of anything. Then up here, I put the main focus for the day. So it could be a to-do, or it could be somewhere where I'm going to be, like say there's a conference or some other kind of event, or if I'm at home and I'm working on a project, I'll put that up here. So here there was a conference, so Jewish Languages Conference, that went for 2 days, and I just put it at the top so I could see at a glance, this is the focus of my day. Then down here I have to-dos for the day. So these are like kind of individual tasks, and I try to keep them separate. Sometimes it can get a bit jumbled up, like what's at the top and what's at the bottom, because it could be that there's, you know, like a kind of big task for the day. I'll put that up here, but then individual things I'll put down here. And then I try to keep the timeline free so that I can use it either for appointments. So for example, this was the conference, and so I put down the program in here so that I could just look at my planner and see what was coming up. And you know, so the conference started at 10, and then it went until 5:30. So I just filled in the timeline there so I didn't have to keep looking at the program, because I like to have everything in my planner if possible. So that's what I do with like kind of timed events. And then if I'm at home, I've shown you this before, I like to use the timeline to block off chunks of time to like kind of estimate how long it will take me to do a given thing. Sometimes this is so that I can see whether what I'm hoping to do is at all realistic. And if on one day I plan, like say I'm going to edit 20 pages and then I only get through 10 pages, I have an idea for the next day that I have to kind of like scale it back. Or if it turns out that I can do more, then I can add on for the next day. But it sort of gives me a concrete way of seeing how much I should be aiming for, because otherwise I feel like I can end up just floundering or wasting a lot of time. And you know, if I don't have a clear goal of how much I want to get through in the day, and then break it down by hour. So I find that works really well, because if I know like I have to do 3 pages in an hour, then I'm checking the clock to see like, can I afford to have a break? How close am I to meeting my target for the hour? And like, that's quite helpful. Sometimes it can make things feel a bit regimented though. So if you're not on a really tight schedule and you're working at home, then I would say, I don't know if it's worth bothering with that, because it can make me feel like really stressed. Like, oh my God, I don't have any time. I have to keep going because I have to get through all of this. But obviously it depends on how much time you budget for all of the different things you have to do. Sometimes if I have a lot of notes, I will start putting notes in the time that's already gone by. So like, I never do anything early in the morning. Like, let's face it, as you can see by all of these timelines. So like the hours between 6 and 10, quite often I end up having extra space that I can put notes in if I need to, just for things that I have to remember to do. And that's how I use the weekly spread. So you can see every week this is the same kind of thing. Sometimes I end up not using the timeline. It depends on what I'm doing. If I'm doing like a lot of little things that I don't really care how much time they take, like admin, planning lessons, answering emails, that kind of thing, then I don't do the timeline. The timeline is only really for research, or obviously if I'm out, you know, at appointments. So that's kind of gone the same that week. And you can see that I generally always have time. I have enough space to put in all of the to-dos. Again, I think it helps that these are only work to-dos, and it depends on what I'm doing. If I'm working on my research project at home, then I won't have a lot of different to-dos that I have to put at the bottom of the page, because I'm just working on one specific thing. Whereas sometimes if I have been out, like say this week, I was teaching a summer course, and so you can see I put at the top, that was the summer course, and it went every day. And so I put in the timeline, the lessons that I was teaching when I was teaching them. So the first one started at 9:30 and went till 11. Then there was a break, and then the next lesson was 11:30 until 1, and then there was another class in the afternoon. So I put all of that in so I could see my schedule for the week. And then the rest of the space up here, where I knew I wasn't going to be scheduling anything anymore, I put in extra to-dos, like things I had to remember to bring for the next day to class, rearranging, sorting out photocopies, working on the lesson pack for the next year, that kind of thing. I put all at the bottom. And then again, if there's anything that didn't have a designated day, I would put over here. Sometimes I think of something like I really should do that, and I can't quite decide when I'm going to have time to do it, so I just put it over here, and then I know I don't have to worry about it anymore. I also put in non-work related appointments. if I feel like they're relevant, as in, for example, Tails, my dog, had a haircut here, and I put that in because if I had to take him to the haircut, then obviously that would affect how much work I could get done. So like when planning my schedule, I didn't want to think, I have this whole entire day because the haircut was in my personal planner, and then like plan all of this stuff and then realize that I have to take out 2 hours to take him to his haircut. Fortunately, James very kindly took him to the haircut, so I did have the time. And in that case, it's kind of annoying not having an erasable pen. I used to use friction pens, and then I gave them up for fountain pens, and I love fountain pens, but sometimes I miss being able to erase things like that, because when I'm doing my work timetable, if I have an appointment like this haircut, it kind of gets in the way of scheduling. Like here I wrote in sort of what I was planning to do in those hours, and then there was this appointment in the middle that I didn't actually need to know about anymore. So sometimes that can happen, but it's usually quite a minor issue. So this is all the same through the beginning of September, and you can see here this is the week that's just gone by. I've started editing, and so here I would put in exactly how many pages I was planning on editing per hour. And then that brings us up to this week. And this is today, so you can see I've been doing a lot of editing today, and that's all I've been doing. And so that's the weekly. So I really feel like the weekly, or I guess between the monthly spreads and the weekly spread, that kind of takes care of all of my planning needs. If I were using this as a combined personal and work planner, then I might have to use the daily spread as well. But because it's just work, that leaves the daily spreads free for taking notes. And that works really, really well for me, because due to the nature of my work, I have to take a lot of notes. So it might, well, I don't have to. I have to take some notes, and it's very, very useful being able to take lots of notes. And having the space means that I've like kind of got used to just being able to note down anything that I want, and it's great. So for example, on the summer course, I could write down the list of all of the students in here, as opposed to having to have the different pieces of paper that I was given. Or I can write down, if I've sent out invitations for a conference, I can write down who I'm expecting answers from, who's already answered, who said no, who said yes. Same thing for any other kinds of projects involving, like names, that kind of things that I have to reference and go back to. Incoming students for the year, all of that kind of stuff. And it's just great having it in here and not having to think about where it is. If it's work related, it's in my daily pages. And then I also note down things like ideas for projects, notes on the current projects that I'm working on, anything like that. And so I use the daily pages for that. And of course, I guess you could say this has led to a ridiculous situation where I then have a separate daily planner. That's my A6 Hobonichi, which is currently in this cover. But this is just my to-do list of work and personal combined, so that I can see it in chronological order. I don't feel like I need a daily to-do list just for work. And it's really, really convenient having all these note pages. So what I do with the notes pages, and oh, by the way, I have tabs here. So I've been using, these are Post-it tabs. They're really thick and they're reusable, so they last for a long time. So I have one tab on the monthly page, the current monthly, and then one tab on the current week. And then I also have one of the Hobonichi bookmarks in here as well. So I just kind of use both of them, whichever one seems easier at the time. So these are the top tabs. And then I have side tabs for the daily pages. And that's because the daily pages, at the beginning of every month, they have this fantastic page which says, remember this. It's like a kind of dashboard for the month. And I use this as an index. So you can see here, I don't use the dates on these. I try to keep within the month. So I'll try to have like all of the August pages used in August. And if they're blank pages, I'll just go to the next month. But within the month, I don't keep strictly to the day, like, because some days I might want to use 2 or 3 pages for a single topic, and then other days I don't need it at all. So the index, I just write each day, and then I write what the topic of that day is. So I try to keep each topic on its own page, which I can do because I easily have enough room. So like some of these things are things that are kind of ephemeral and I'm not going to need them again. Like these were some questions for an application I was working on. I'm not going to need to ever come back and consult these now that I've submitted the application. But other ones are things that I am going to have to come back and reference. And so the ones that I am going to need again, I've starred so that I can easily find them, because some of these are just, they're things that I don't need to look at, but it can be kind of a pain reading through the whole list trying to find what you want, especially now that like 5 months of the year have gone by. Sometimes I don't remember which month something is in. So if I've starred them, that means that there are only 3 stars for April, so that means it's not going to take me very long to check if it's in April. So usually I have a general idea of when in the year I wrote something down, like if it was August as opposed to May, but I might not remember, like was it June or July? So that's just a very quick way I can see these are the things I'm going to have to come back to. Like the provisional timetable for the university for the coming year, I could never find that, and then when I put the star next to it, I was like, okay. And now that I've checked it a few times, I usually remember it's April. So that's how I use the index. And I love that. That works really, really well, because last year in my cousin, I had a different system where I allocated the last month for reference, which was like things that I thought I was going to have to come back to and check, like students' marks and future projects and stuff like that. And then the rest of it was just for, random notes that I didn't think I was going to have to come back to again. But inevitably, I ended up getting confused and forgetting whether I should put something in reference or in the notes section, or I would make some notes that I didn't think I would have to reference, and then it turned out that I did, and that got really confusing. And in the end it was hard to find things. So this system is just great because I don't need to worry when I make the notes whether they're going to be things that I'll want to come back to again. If it turns out that they are, then I put a star next to them and then I can find them. And I've put side tabs on here so you can see this is what it looks like. Because I'm using these a lot and have to refer back to them, it got to be kind of a pain trying to find the beginning of every month, even though you do have it marked. But when you're flipping through, I think it can be, I don't know, I find it easier just being able to go to the tab, because I can see the first tab is April and I haven't labeled them, but I know that the year starts in April, so I just kind of go through. So that's April, and then May, so you can see the same thing. There are only a few stars here. Sometimes if I had something that was starred and then I've since resolved it and I'm now not going to need to go back to it again, then I put a tick next to it. So if I see a star and then a tick, then I know that that's no longer something I need to look at. So you can see every month really only has a few stars, and that means that I can ignore the rest of these things. These are all just notes that some of them I might have to go back to, but they're not things that I have needed to check so far. So these are some notes for a potential project that I'm working on with a colleague, but they were just kind of like brainstorming ideas, and I don't think I'm going to need them again. But if I do, I can find them. It's just these are the ones that I have to go over, that I know that I'll have to go back to over and over again. So, and sometimes, as you can see, this was the conference. I was taking a lot of notes so that I could give the closing address. So I sometimes, just depending on what is going on in the month, I might end up with a lot of blank pages. So this was an example of that. I got to near the end of July and I was like, oh my goodness, I have 15 blank pages. I haven't used half the month. I don't want to get further and further behind, so I'll go on to August, but I have all these blank pages. I haven't really worried about it too much because I've thought I'll probably need them at some point. And because I'm not really using the dates, it doesn't matter that they're in a previous month. But as it's happened so far, all of those pages that I thought were going to be left blank at the end of the month have ended up getting used. So for example, I took I think 6 or 7 pages for conference notes, and it was great having that because I didn't have to worry about running out of room. And as it happened, it took me right up until the end of the month. Then the same thing happened in August. I think I only got up to maybe page 10 or 11 by very, very close to the end of the month. And then I went to see a colleague and we were working on a book together. I ended up taking loads of notes, for ideas about the book, and that used up all of those pages. So I guess it's I'm a little bit obsessive. I don't like the thought of having lots of blank pages left here. Last year I ended up with probably maybe 2 weeks or 3 weeks worth of blank pages at the end, and it kind of annoyed me. I don't mind 2 or 3 blank pages at the end of the month. But so far it's been fine. So August, I ended up using all of the pages. So it's hard to tell. Like, I don't necessarily know at the beginning of the month how things are going to end up. Some months I've been like kind of roughly like on average a page per day. So like so far September I've used up to page 9 and we're now on the 12th. So I'm only 3 days behind. And I know that might change because I think, as I said, when I'm at home by myself working on a research project, I don't tend to use a lot of pages, although I do use some for notes on the research project. But it's more when I'm like going out and doing things with other people, and that's when I end up using a lot of pages. So I think it's a really good system. I'm very happy with it because I know that I'll always have enough notes pages and I don't have to worry about running out. Because, for some reason, if I got really far ahead in the month and I like kind of, was like a week ahead in the future on the daily pages, then I could always do things like write smaller or just, not like there are ways that I could kind of manage it so that I would be sure to have enough room and not, use up the pages before the end of the year. But it's never been an issue so far. And then at the back, this is very exciting because I've never done this before. I have put in my timetable for teaching because that has been fixed. And so I've got to use this page for the first time. So this is my timetable for the upcoming academic year. I haven't used any of the rest of these pages, although I do have at the back, I wrote down a couple of phone numbers and email addresses of people who gave me their business cards so that I didn't have to keep the cards. And then here I just have this card that James gave me when I got a promotion, which was really nice of him. So I keep that here. And then this is another picture of Panda, and this is as well. And I just keep some sticky notes here. And this is just some note paper, just in case I have to give something to somebody, even if somebody needs me to make a note for them. And that's the back. I very, very rarely use this pocket. I actually have only ever used it once. I used it to put some notes in for a talk that I had to give because it was a little bit big to fit in here and it fit quite well in the back pocket, but usually that's empty. So that's it. That is the current state of my Hobonichi Cousin. I hope that you enjoyed this. I will be back again soon with another video. As always, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Bye!